was in 9th position because Andrea Cesaris is now in 8th. But Zanardi at 26.096, currently a little quicker than Johnny Herbert, who got the new Mugen Honda engine. Zanardi running the old one.
And that engine certainly has opened a few eyes up and down the pit lane. It's been very impressive indeed. It's light, it's compact, and it's very powerful.
Well, John, I think the engine in the back of this car is very powerful. Damon Hill, our chauffeur, around 5.8 kilometers of this Monza circuit. And let's see the first intermediate time.
And if we get a glimpse inside the cockpit from Damon Hill from that camera on his left shoulder, you see little green lights. There they are, two green and one, let's say, pinkish color. Those are the rev limiter warning lights, and that's what Damon Hill uses. He cannot really see the rev counter. First of all, the engine revs so quickly, so he changes gear on those lights, and as he gets into the higher gears, 4th and 5th, he then will use 2 lights, but in the lower gear, as soon as one of those lights shows, he then will shift gear.
Damon Hill going through the Variante Ascari. The gap now with Jean Alesi's grown to 0.8 of a second. This is Damon Hill's first proper flying lap. Now, we've seen people doing it on their 2nd and 3rd laps, John. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is one of those we saw do that. So maybe Damon building up to a blinding lap right now. The first lap is a 25.196. That is slower than he did yesterday, so no improvement from Damon Hill. But let's see what he can do on this lap. Well, David Coulthard should cross the line soon.
Well, that time from Damon Hill is exactly 1 second slower than he achieved this morning. And I'm putting these times, particularly at the front, down to the change in conditions. This morning was probably more ideal for that single fast lap than what we have now. And one of the problems between the morning session and the afternoon session is the temperature rise, the change of track surface, how the coefficient of grip affects, and you almost have to predetermine what you will get. In general, what happens when the circuit gets warmer is you lose more grip at the front. That's the normal complaint a driver will come in with. So sometimes you've got to maybe put more downforce on the car. May not feel entirely comfortable on the out lap or even the first flying lap, but it will help the car over the period of the 3 or 4 laps that you want to do on any given run.
Damon Hill, 0.49 of a second. That is closer than he was before, and I think we're looking at another non-qualifier. Well, currently Bertrand Gachot is still in 26th position, but Martini has left the pits, so I think that won't take very long. A 24.847 for Damon Hill, still slower than yesterday.
Well, remember, this is the first run for Damon Hill. He's got as many sets of tyres out of the 7 he's permitted. Here's David Coulthard coming across line, 25.004. And once again, that's 0.2 of a second slower than his time from Friday afternoon. And just over half a second slower than he achieved. And David attacks the curbs. We've seen him this morning. He is more aggressive in his driving style than teammate Damon Hill. I mean, he just aims the car. It's rather reminiscent of what you've seen, or what we have seen throughout the weekend from Jean Alesi.
David Coulthard there, 0.3 of a second slower than Jean Alesi at that first intermediate. Now, can he keep that momentum going? Well, running over those curves, you shouldn't really run over those curves, John. They're very much rumble strips, and I think they actually slow the car down a little bit if you run over them too much.
Well, David, as we observed, has been using a fair bit of curbing all around the circuit. And again on the exit, looking at Johnny Herbert much neater on the exit. Of course, the important thing is to maintain the speed off the corner. Some drivers feel that using the curb helps them. Others feel that it, in fact, as you mentioned, can actually cause you to lose time. It's a personal thing. And in a way, it's almost a psychological thing.
David Coulthard crossing start-finish for the 5th time this afternoon. and the time a 1:25.056. That is not an improvement, but a big improvement from Johnny Herbert, who's now in 5th position, a 1:24.965. There he is, Johnny Herbert. There's a smile on his face, very big indeed. Well, David Coulthard improved to 2nd place on that lap. So Coulthard now 2nd position, the front row of the grid for the 23-year-old Scot in only his 8th Grand Prix of his Grand Prix career on provisional front row is David Coulthard, behind Jean Alesi.
And it is a performance like this from David Coulthard that is marking him out as a man for the future. He's seizing every opportunity, sliding every opportunity to ensure that come 1995, and remember Nigel Mansell will be driving this car in the final 3 Grand Prix. David Coulthard's got no option, he's got to sit it out, but he's decided to back off. He's decided that that slide on the exit from the 2nd chicane compromised him, lost him too much time. He's going back into the pits.
Barrichello back in 12th position. We just saw him, last name on our screen. But Alesi, Coulthard, Hill, Berger and Herbert. That is the top 5 here in Monza. We're halfway into the session, the 2nd qualifying session for tomorrow's Italian Grand Prix. And let me remind you, the Grand Prix starts at 3 o'clock continental time, which is 2 o'clock in the UK, and it's 1 hour later than normal. Also, the warm-up is 1 hour later than normal. So it's not 9:30 on the continent and 8:30 in the UK, but 9:30 in the UK, 10:30 in the rest of Europe.
But he knows that was his error, and well, the penalty is he will start on the 4th row of the grid alongside Dutchman Jos Verstappen.
Damon Hill, what can he do about the 2 red cars ahead of him? Can he take away pole position from Jean Alesi? Can he take away 2nd place from Gerhard Berger? He's got this lap and the next lap. The target? No, he hasn't done it. Another improvement, but he's got to find 0.4 of a second to beat either Ferrari. The difference between the Ferrari drivers is thousands of seconds. It's less than 1/10 of a second. So Damon Hill, Damon, this is your last lap. This is the lap he has to do it in. Current top 5, Alesi, Berger, Hill, Herbert and Coulthard. John, 3 Brits in the top 5, not bad at all.
Well, let's put it this way, there are 2 Englishmen, a Scotsman and an Ulsterman in the top 7.
Smoke. Did Damon Hill back off, or did he continue, or is that on the camera lens? There's yellow flags and someone had stopped. Someone stopped, and that's the other Williams. That's David Coulthard's car. So Coulthard will not be able to improve on that time. Coulthard out of this session. Damon, well, Damon, I don't think you're going to get close to the Ferraris. I think for the 2nd time this year, we will see a Ferrari lockout on the front row, unless you can do something very spectacular. And I wonder, did he back off when he saw the smoke and saw the yellow flags?
Well, you take a risk in those circumstances. I would say he didn't. He probably had a fairly good indication from the smoke, and he might have been able to smell the smoke, because that, you know, there's a difference between burning smoke and between oil smoke that is from a blown up engine. There is David Coulthard's car pulled off to the side of the track, and that young man has got a very big future.